treat technology as a business leadership function, not a support function. Many organizations do not necessarily need more technology. They need clearer direction. Consultants typically evaluate, recommend, and deliver reports. A fractional executive remains involved in execution.
This is the Future of the Future show. I am your host, Mateo Berbejicio. Technology leadership is changing fast. Companies are under pressure to scale, adopt AI, modernize their systems, and make smarter technology decisions, often without the budget or need for a full-time executive. That's where the rise of the fractional CTO and CIO comes in. In this episode, we are joined by George Alexandrou, a technology leader who has sat in both the CIO and the CTO seat and now helps organizations navigate complex technology challenges as a fractional executive. Whether you are a founder, executive, or aspiring technology leader, this conversation is packed with practical insights on leading through complexity and building technology that drives results. George, thank you so much for being here.
Thank you, Mateo. Before we get started, again, I would like to thank you for the invitation and for the opportunity to join this podcast today. I have been looking forward for our conversation and the chance to share some perspectives on technology leadership, digital transformation, and the evolving role of the fractional CIO and CTO. Thank you for having me.
George, having served as both a CIO and CTO, how do you define a fractional CTO, CIO in practice? And how does that role fundamentally differ from consulting or full-time leadership?
A fractional CIO or CTO is an experienced technology executive who becomes part of the leadership team on a flexible basis. Their role is not simply advisory. It is a leadership with accountability, I would say. A fractional executive helps organizations to do a number of things, make strategic technology decisions, align IT investments with business goals, reduce operational risk, improve efficiency, and guide transformation initiatives without the cost or long-term commitment of a full-time C-suite hire. In practice, a fractional CIO CTO operates as an extension of the executive team, if you say. They participate in leadership discussions, they help shape business strategies, oversee technology direction, support budgeting and vendor decisions, guide cybersecurity and governance efforts, and ensure technology investments are delivering measurable business value. The focus is not just on systems or infrastructure, but on enabling growth, scalability, resilience, and operating maturity. What fundamentally separates a fractional CIO CTO from consulting is ownership and integration into the business, right? So consultants typically evaluate, recommend, and deliver reports on project-based guidance. A fractional executive remains involved in execution, prioritization, decision-making, and long-term accountability. They help leadership navigate real operational challenges, not just define them. So the difference between a full-time CIO or CTO and a fractional CIO or CTO lies primarily in the level of engagement, timing, and organizational specific needs. Many companies require executive-level technology leadership, but may not yet need a permanent executive role. So a fractional model provides a number of things, right? Access to senior experience during periods of growth, digital transformation, modernization, mergers and acquisition activity, right? Cybersecurity initiatives, AI adoption, operational restructuring, and of course, vendor transitions, right? So at its core, the role is about bringing executive level technology leadership to organizations in a practical, business focused, and cost effective way, helping companies move faster and make better decisions and build a stronger technology foundation aligned to business outcomes.
Got it. Um, what are the most common problems companies bring you today, and how do you typically approach solving them within the first 30 to 60 days?
Okay, good question. So the most common challenges companies bring today are usually not purely technology problems. These are fundamentally business problems with technological implications, right? So most organizations are dealing with a number of things, right? Some combination of operational inefficiency, disconnected systems, rising IT costs, cybersecurity concerns, vendor complexities, lack of internal alignment, style transformation initiatives, and of course, AI priorities, right? So in many cases, leadership feels that technology has become reactive instead of strategic. Projects takes too long, teams operate in silos, vendors drive the roadmap instead of the business, and executives lack clear visibility into risk, cost, and performance. These are often frustration around execution, too many tools, too much complexity, and not enough measurable business value. So the first 30 days are typically focused on creating clarity, alignment, and momentum, right? So my approach typically begins with listening first, allowed by structure assessment. So let me itemize my steps. I put together some steps. One is understanding the business priorities, meeting leadership teams, evaluating the current technology landscape, identifying operational pain points, reviewing vendors and contracts, assessing cybersecurity posture, and understanding where technology is helping or hindering the business. From there, the focus moves quickly to prioritization and execution. The objective here is not to produce a lengthy consulting report, but to define a clear, actionable roadmap that drives measurable business impact, right? So that often includes identifying quick operational wins, reducing unnecessary spending, improving governance and decision-making processes, stabilizing critical systems of vendors, aligning IT initiatives to business priorities, and finally, building a realistic modernization and transformation plan. So equally important is establishing trust and communication between business and technology stakeholders. Many organizations do not necessarily need more technology. They need clearer direction, better prioritization, stronger accountability, and an executive level framework for decision making. So within the next 30 days, right, leadership should have a significantly clearer understanding of the following, right? So you're going to have current technology risks and gaps, operational inefficiencies and cost opportunities, immediate stabilization priorities, short and long-term strategic initiatives, vendor and governance improvements, a practical roadmap tied directly to business outcomes, right? So early on, the objective is to move from a reactive decision-making to a foundational structure, visibility, and forward momentum.
Where do you see companies making the most expensive technology mistakes right now, especially in non-technical founders or scaling teams?
Yeah, very, very interesting question. So one of the most costly mistakes organizations make is treating technology decisions as isolated technical choices rather than business decisions with a long-term operational and financial impact. This is especially common among non-technical founders at fast-scaling companies where early-stage speed often takes priority over structure and governance. So a major issue is overbuilding too early or adopting too many platforms, tools, and vendors without a clear architecture or operational strategy. So companies often chase trends, particularly around AI, automation, cloud, or even SaaS platforms, right? They're doing all this without fully understanding integration, scalability, security, governance, or long-term cost implications. What starts as moving fast can quickly turn into an inconsistent system landscape. Duplicated tools, rising operational complexity, and expensive technical debt. Another common mistake is under-investing in governance and security while scaling aggressively. That is a big mistake. Many organizations wait until there is a security incident, a compliance issue, operational outage, or failed audit before addressing risk management properly. By that point, taking corrective action becomes significantly more expensive and disruptive. I also see companies making costly mistakes around vendor dependency and procurement decisions. Too often, vendors end up defining the roadmap instead of the business itself. Organizations sign long-term agreements, implement platforms they do not fully utilize, or build around technologies that are difficult to scale, replace, or integrate later. Now, for scaling companies, specifically, one of the biggest risks I found out is failing to align technology with operational maturity. Growth can expose weakness very quickly, which include manual processes, poor data visibility, weak governance, inconsistent workflows, or systems that were never designed to scale. What worked for a 20-person company often breaks at a 200-person company or across multiple business units, right? So with AI specifically, many organizations are currently making reactive decisions driven by fear or missing out. The mistake is not experimenting with AI, but implementing AI initiatives without governance, business alignment, data readiness, security controls, or a clear understanding of measurable business value. The organizations that navigate growth successfully are usually the ones that approach technology strategically and operationally from the beginning. So these organizations focus on scalability, governance, simplicity, and business alignment, right? Instead of chasing every new technology trend or solving short-term problems with the short-term fixes.
So it's a tough industry right now, and the environment is very difficult, right? What are some of the biggest challenges your clients are facing today?
Yeah, I see that every day. So from my perspective, the biggest challenges organizations face today are less about technology itself and more about navigating constant change while maintaining operational stability, security, and growth. Most leadership teams are trying to balance innovation with risk. They try to balance speed with governance and cost control with modernization, right? So one of the largest challenges is complexity. Over the past several years, companies have accumulated too many platforms, too many vendors, tools, and disconnected systems. This creates operational inefficiency, right? So poor visibility, rising costs, integration challenges, and slower decision making. right? So many organizations are now realizing they need simplification and alignment more than additional technology. So cybersecurity and risk management remain major concerns, especially as threats become more sophisticated and regulatory expectations continue to increase. Leadership teams understand cybersecurity is now a business risk, not just an IT issue, but many organizations still struggle with governance. They struggle with preparation and resource constraints. Now, AI and digital transformation are also creating significant pressures. Companies know they need to modernize and leverage AI to remain competitive, right? But many are unsure where to start, where to prioritize, or how responsibility and effectively to implement this technology. There is often a gap between executive expectation and organizational readiness. Another major challenge I saw is aligning technology investments with measurable business outcome. Many companies have spent heavily on technology over the years, but still struggle to demonstrate ROI. They struggle to demonstrate operational improvements and productivity, and meaningful business value to the spend on that technology. This leads to frustration at the executive board level, especially during periods of economic stability and budget oversight. For scaling organizations, operational maturity is another common issue. Processes, governance structure, reporting and systems that work during early growth stages often begin to break down as the organization expands. Leadership teams are then forced to modernize operation while continue at the same time to support growth and day-to-day execution. So finally, many organizations face a leadership and alignment challenge between business and technology teams. Technology initiatives often fail, not because the technology itself is wrong, but because priorities, communication, transparency, accountability, and execution are not aligned across the organization. So overall, the companies that succeed today are the ones that treat technology as a core business function, not simply another technology tool, and approach modernization and discipline, governance, a clear connection to business strategy and operation outcomes.
Now, let's talk a little bit about the role of the CTO. You have been around for a while. How has the role for the CTO evolved over the last few years, and why do you think the fractional model is gaining so much traction right now?
Good question. So the role of the CTO has evolved significantly over the last few years, right? Correct. Traditionally, the focus was heavily centered on infrastructure, systems, uptime, and technical execution. So today, the role is far more business-driven. Modern CTOs are expected to help drive growth, innovation, operational efficiency, cybersecurity strategy, digital transformation, AI adoption, customer experience, and overall business competitiveness. Technology is now embedded in nearly every part of the business, which means the CTO is no longer operating only as a technical leader, right? So the role has become increasingly strategic and cross-functional, requiring close alignment with executive leadership, including finance, operations, sales, marketing, legal, and of course, the board, right? In many organizations, the CTO is now expected to translate complex technology decisions into business outcomes and risk management discussions that leadership teams can act with confidence. At the same time, the pace of change has accelerated dramatically. AI, cybersecurity threats, cloud modernization, Automation, compliance pressures, data governance, and evolving customer expectations are forcing companies to make technology decisions faster than ever before, right? So many organizations simply cannot afford to delay executive-level technology leadership. That is one of the main reasons the fractional model is gaining traction. Companies increasingly need experienced executive leadership, but not every organization requires or can justify a full-time CIO CTO. The fractional model gives business access to senior level expertise, strategic guidance, and operational leadership in a more flexible and cost-effective way. The model is especially attractive for growing companies, private equity-backed firms, mid-market organizations, and companies undergoing transformation, modernization, I would say mergers, acquisitions, restructuring, or rapid scaling. These organizations often need executive-level decision-making and leadership immediately without the long hire cycles, compensation structures, or permanent overhead association with a full-time executive hire. Another reason the model is growing is the business today value outcomes and agility more than organizational hierarchy. Companies are becoming more comfortable leveraging specialized executive expertise than needed. Actually, I would say when needed, rather than built-in large permanent leadership structures before the business is ready. So ultimately, the fractional model reflects a broader shift in how organizations think about leadership, right? Bringing in experienced executives at the right time for the right challenges with a direct focus on business outcomes, operational execution, and strategic impact.
For someone listening and aspiring to become a fractional CTO, CIO, what skills or experiences are absolutely non-negotiable and what mistakes should they avoid early on?
Yes, good question. So to succeed as a fractional CIO, CTO, technical knowledge alone is not enough, right? So the role requires a combination of executive leadership. It requires business strategy, operational experience, and the ability to build trust quickly across an organization. Companies are not hiring a fractional executive simply for technical expertise. They are bringing in someone to help make high-impact business decisions through technology leadership. So the most important non-negotiable skill is the ability to align technology with business outcomes. So a successful fractional executive must understand finance, operations, risk, growth strategy, organization dynamics, and executive communication just as well as they understand technology. Leadership teams expect clarity, prioritization, and business judgment, not technological complexity. So hands-on operational experience is also critical. Fractional leaders are often brought into environments that are already under pressure of scaling challenges, cybersecurity concerns, style initiatives, what else? Vendor issues, modernization efforts, and the biggest one, organizational misalignment, right? The ability to quickly assess situations, prioritize effectively, stabilize operations, and create momentum is essential. Another one is communication is another major differentiation, right? A strong fractional CIO CTO must be able to communicate equally well with the boards, executives, investors, business stakeholders, technical teams, and vendors, right? So the role often involves translating technical risk and complexity into practical business decisions, and leadership teams can act on confidently. right? Transparency is equally non-negotiable, right? Fractional leaders must be extremely clear and honest about what they know, what they don't know, what the organization is facing, and what trade-offs exist. Companies do not expect perfection, but they do expect clarity. Being transparent about risk, timelines, cost, constraints, and dependency builds trust quickly and prevents misalignment later. It also means identifying and communicating bad news early, setting realistic expectations, and ensuring leadership always has a true picture of reality rather than overly optimistic view of progress. Another one, equally important, is to adapt. Early organization has different levels of maturity, culture, agency, and internal capability. Fractional leaders must know when to be strategic and when to be operational, when to advise and when to lead directly. Now, what mistakes should they avoid early on? One of the biggest mistakes people make early on is approaching the role like a consultant instead of an executive leader. Companies are not looking for someone to produce a long assessments without execution. They want ownership, determination, accountability, and practical leadership. Another mistake is focusing too heavily on technology itself rather than the business problems behind it, right? So new fractional leaders also sometimes underestimate the importance of relationship building and executive trust, right? In many cases, success depends less on technological recommendations and more on the ability to align leadership teams, navigate organization politics, influence decision-making, and create confidence during periods of uncertainty or change. And finally, many people entering the space try to position themselves as experts in everything. The strongest fractional CIO CTOs understand their strength, build trusted partner networks where needed, stay outcome focused, and avoid overcomplicating solutions. Simplicity, clarity, prioritization, execution are often far more valuable to clients than technical sophistication alone.
This has been an amazing conversation already, but let me ask you this. If you had to distill everything we've discussed into one principle that every leadership team should follow regarding technology and growth, what would it be?
Okay, if I have to distill everything to one principle, it would be this: treat technology as a business leadership function, not a support function. So when companies get this right, technology stops being a collection of tools and becomes a strategic business capability. Decisions are guided by measurable outcomes, inform risk management, and long-term value creation, not vendor agendas. Leadership teams stay connected to what is being built, why it matters, and what trade-offs are being made. It also forces clarity and discipline. Priority becomes easier to set, investments become easier to justify, and execution becomes more focused because there is a direct line between business strategy and technology delivery. So most of the expensive mistakes companies make are fragmentation, overspending, poor scalability, security gaps, and failed transformation. Organizations achieve sustained success when technology has a seat at the executive table and both business and technology leaders are jointly accountable for results. So summarizing, where technology is led as a part of the business, not alongside it, everything becomes simpler, faster, and more effective.
Thank you, George. I appreciate it. This has been an amazing conversation. Thank you for sharing so much about your knowledge, your story. It's lots of advice for everyone that has been listening and listens to this episode.
Thank you, Mateo. Appreciate you having me.